Top 10 favourite Christmas TV episodes / specials. Everyone loves a Christmas special or a special Christmas episode. Here's my 10 favourite Christmas episodes of some of my favourite TV series. Number 10. Jonathan Creek, The Grinning Man. The Grinning Man was a Christmas special that aired in late 2009. It's not very Christmassy, but it is very good. It was the first Jonathan Creek that we had for about 5 years since season 4 in 2004. Now, if you don't know what Jonathan Creek is, perhaps you're in America or something, it's basically a sort of tongue-in-cheek detective series, often with kind of gothic overtones. Basically, it was about a magician's assistant who was actually the guy that came up with the majority of the magician's illusions, who finds that ability also enabling him to crack seemingly impossible mysteries. And there's a lot of them in this show. The Grinning Man co-stars Sheridan Smith as a new character. It's a shame we never got a full season with her, because I liked her a lot more than I did her replacement. The Grinning Man basically sees two young women caught in a thunderstorm in the country with a car broken down, and they're invited to stay the night at a country manor. Things get weird, however, when the story about the attic in this country manor is brought up. Basically, this attic has a rather strange history of people apparently disappearing without trace when they stay there overnight. For a joke, one of the young women agrees to do just that, and guess what? Come morning, they unlock the door, which was locked from the outside, and she's vanished without a trace. This is a really enjoyable special. Again, it's not very Christmassy, but it's still a very enjoyable mystery with the usual Jonathan Creek humour. And to my mind, the scene in the room where Joy almost fatally finds out exactly what happened to her friend is one of the scariest scenes in the history of the show. 9. Drop the Dead Donkey, The Christmas Party. The season 2 finale of this 90s British satirical newsroom comedy series is one of the funniest episodes of the whole show. I think it won an International Emmy Award or something like that. A Christmas party at the newsroom goes about as well as you'd expect, and the aftermath leaves a number of characters very, very embarrassed. This is a really funny episode, an absolute classic, and very, very Christmassy. 8. Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads, a special Christmas edition. Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads was a 2-season 70s follow-up to a 60s show that was simply called The Likely Lads. It basically followed the same characters, albeit some years later, and now kind of going from being young lads on the raz to guys in their 30s approaching middle age. Not that at least one of them is going anywhere near being mature anytime soon. This is a very funny Christmas special. Terry, the great James Bolam, causes his usual mischief. But what I like about this is that it reveals, because these characters kind of started off basically the same in the 60s show, and then the 70s show, Bob, played by Rodney Bewes, he's engaged and then he actually gets married, and he fancies himself as being, very much middle class now and on the up and up, while Terry continues to be the same ratbag, unashamedly and unapologetically working class guy he always was, and is very much plain speaking, and what you see is what you get. And what I like about this Christmas special is it's one of the ones that reveals that scratch the surface, and when it comes down to it, Bob is just as bad as Terry, if not worse. 7. The Bill, Twanky. Now, The Bill was a very serious cop show, not really known for massively great Christmas episodes, though there were a few. This is probably my favourite of the Christmas-themed episodes. I think it's the 1999 Christmas episode. where the boys and girls at Sunhill Police Station are roped into putting on a pantomime for a local theatre for a children's charity. It goes about as well as you'd expect. Sergeant Boyden uses it as an excuse to get his leg over, as usual. Rod Skase gets dressed up as a woman, knocked out, mistaken for a hooker, and arrested, as usual. And an escaped convict decides to use this time as an opportunity to have a go at D.I. Chris Deacon. This is a really fun episode, a really fun Christmas special. And in a way, it's kind of bittersweet in a way, because of the seismic changes that the show underwent mid-2000. This is really the last time that we see this ensemble all together in a Christmas episode. And it gives it a slightly sad quality to it, as well as being a really fun episode. 6. Canine and Company. Forget the New Who Christmas specials. The best Doctor Who themed Christmas special is the one from 1981. Canine and Company, with Liz Sladen as Sarah and of course John Leeson as the voice of Canine. The Doctor sends Sarah an unexpected present in the form of another version of Canine, which proves very handy when she finds herself getting involved in investigating a satanic cult, or a witch's cult or something along those lines, in a small English village. This is so much of its time and its period in the best possible way, and it's very, very Christmassy, and it's very, very entertaining. Canine even sings Merry Christmas at the end. I mean, what more do you want, for heaven's sake? 5. Jonathan Creek, Satan's Chimney. The 2001 Christmas special of Jonathan Creek saw the introduction of a new sidekick for Jonathan in the form of Carla Borrego, played by former Press Gang alumni Julia Sawalha, who would reprise that role in the subsequent 4th season, replacing Caroline Quentin as Maddie Magellan. Despite that unexpected cast change, Satan's Chimney is a really good Christmas special, setting up with some great mysteries. A very beautiful older actress, played by none other than Mary Tam, Doctor Who's Romana, is murdered on set, apparently by being shot, without being shot through a window, without the window being broken. Explain that away. If that wasn't baffling enough, something sinister then happens to someone else associated with this actress when a country retreat goes very wrong and a man disappears without trace from a dungeon that's apparently completely inescapable. Satan's Chimney is another really enjoyable Christmas special. It's a little bit more Christmassy than The Grinning Man, though it's still not full on with the Christmas as you might expect. But it is a really enjoyable and entertaining gothic mystery with a good sense of humour, as always, with this show. 4. One Foot in the Grave, Starbound. Now, One Foot in the Grave, for those of you who don't know, was a British comedy series that ran for 6 seasons in the 90s, about 1990 through to 2000, I think, as well as about half a dozen Christmas specials over the years. It was a massively popular show. Following the misadventures of Victor Meldrew and his wife, Margaret, Victor being an older man forced into early retirement against his will, and who's got a reputation for being a grumpy old bugger. Though, to be fair to Victor, he usually has very good reason to be grumpy, and he's usually right about everything he's grumpy about. Starbound is one of the best Christmas specials from 1996, when a strange man who decides to apparently start living in the Meldrew's back garden shed somehow ends up with Victor's new job as a gardener for his former next door neighbour's new boss go very, very, very wrong. I love One Foot in the Grave. It's one of my favourite comedy series, and the Christmas specials usually pretty great too. This is the second best of the Christmas specials in my opinion. Again, as with those two Jonathan Creeks, it's not quite as Christmassy as it should be, which is why it's lesser down than another one. But it's still a really, really, really funny episode. The finale, which I won't describe for any of you who haven't seen it and want to be surprised by it if you do watch it, is absolutely laugh out loud hilarious. 3. Blackadder's Christmas Cowl. Now, no list of Christmas episodes would be complete without Blackadder's Christmas Cowl. Blackadder is another of my favourite shows, and Christmas Cowl is the only Christmas special they did from the late 80s. It's very, very funny. With a different version of Blackadder than any we've seen before. This time, this is basically an inverse of Scrooge, in which a very nice Blackadder basically gets taught by all the scheming, horrible, corrupt, self-centered bastards around him to become a complete bastard, just like the rest of the Blackadder family. We have Robbie Coltrane guest stars as the Ghost of Christmas Past, and we get recreations of the environment and the cast of Blackadder 2 and Blackadder the Third, as well as a ridiculous future version of Blackadder. Blackadder's Christmas Carol has been a firm Christmas favourite of mine for a very long time, over 30 years, and I dare say it always will be. 2. One Foot in the Grave, The Wisdom of the Witch. This was the 1995 Christmas special. In my opinion, it's the best Christmas special of One Foot in the Grave. Not least because it's much more Christmassy than the others, because we have a country house that's basically snowbound, a real snowy environment, which always just makes it feel like Christmas. But this is a ripper of an episode, a really funny Christmas special, where a cousin of Margaret's dies and basically leaves them having to clear out their old country house. Meanwhile, Victor's neighbour, Patrick, is being stalked by a psychopath after his secretary, who is the psychopath's girlfriend, falsely claims, basically just to annoy him, that she and Patrick are having an affair. And Patrick finds himself being stalked by a psycho. This is an absolute cracker, really funny episode, with a great shining example in the climax of Victor as pure hero. Because Victor is a hero. He often gets things wrong, of course, or he often gets himself into situations that he doesn't really end up being the best of, but he always does things with the purest of intentions. And there are a couple of examples where he emerges as a true shining hero at the end of it, and this is one of those. Wisdom of the Witch is an absolute classic. Number 1. My favourite Jonathan Creek Christmas special, probably my favourite Christmas special, is Jonathan Creek Black Canary from Christmas 1998, I believe. When a woman apparently commits suicide in a snowy country estate in full view of her ailing, disabled husband who's watching with horror from inside the house, it seems like a pretty clear-cut case of suicide, except for one thing: the appearance of a mysterious tramp moments before the woman's suicide, and the fact that said tramp left no footprints anywhere in the snow. This is my favourite of all the Christmas specials. It's certainly the most Christmassy of the Christmas specials, as you can hear with the snow, with a wonderful mystery, great sense of humour, and a great guest turn from legendary British comic actor Rick Mayall as a dashing, eccentric, and perhaps uniquely, almost basically as clever as Jonathan, police detective, who's also on the case. It's very rare that you get that in Jonathan Creek, and in any show with an amateur detective doing the stuff. Police are usually hopeless, let's face it, but this guy's actually just as sharp as Jonathan, and a lot more charismatic and dashing and handsome too. It's a great turn from Rick Mayall, and it's just a great, cracking Christmas special. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again soon.